Welcome to my podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're going to touch on how growing up in like an abusive environment kind of shapes how you are when you're older. So my ex always told me the reason that I was like so forgiving and such like a people pleaser and a pushover is because I grew up in an incredibly abusive environment, and that's just how I was conditioned. And honestly, that is so hella true. So if you grow up in an environment that's like unsafe or chaotic, more than likely you're going to naturally take on two different forms. You're going to take on an extremely manipulative form, because being able to manipulate a situation to your best favor is kind of like how you had to tiptoe around and survive. On the flip, you can take on an extremely agreeable pushover type of behavior, personality, because you've always had to try to keep the peace the best that you could, right? Because you've always had to do that. That's like a survival mechanism that you have been conditioned to since you were born. And you may not know how to turn off this mechanism as you get older, especially as you like transition out of that abusive, chaotic environment. And while being extremely nice and extremely agreeable is a great attribute in some situations, it is absolutely not okay to be this way all the time, because you're putting a target on your forehead for abusers. Abusers pick up on this like freaking coon dogs in hunting season, especially if they know that you come from an abusive environment. Unhealed abuse survivors are the bread and butter for current abusers. And while being agreeable is like cool, you know what I mean? A lot of times if you're just totally agreeable and totally nice and totally go with the flow, you don't have your own identity. You've never been able to like pick up on your own identity. And it's extremely important when you're healing from abuse that you actually take the time to heal, and you don't fall into this ocean of just like constantly morphing into what other people want, because you will never find your own self. You will never find your own identity. And that is one thing that I personally really struggled with. My childhood fucking sucked. Like, I had an abusive father. We'll get like more into my situation as a whole one day, but like it wasn't great. And then when I was a teenager, I got with a guy that was a lot like my dad, extremely abusive, started abusing me physically. I literally should have ran as fast as I could, but my body was like, hell yeah, we know how to roll with this. This is like, we're used to this. So stayed with him for 9 years, and then flipped right out of that relationship, rolled right into another one. I never knew who I was. I only knew who everybody wanted me to be. And everybody wanted me to be agreeable and go with the flow and like morph into whatever personality I was around at that time. So I never found myself. Like, myself was buried like super deep inside me, and I didn't know who she was. And then when she started screaming like, hey bitch, I'm here, and I was like, who's that? And my ex at that time was like, wait, who's she? It just wasn't agreeable anymore. There was like things that didn't, like, there were standards that I wanted to have, boundaries that I wanted to put in place, things that were important to me I maybe had never expressed that I cared about. And it just, the current reality that I had started to fall apart, because I was realizing that my life was mine. Oh my God, I do have my own identity. I am so sick of morphing to what everybody else wants me to be. That's why it's extremely important, if you're coming out of an abusive relationship or abusive childhood or whatever, that you're not just constantly gripping on to what other people want, because eventually that voice that's inside your chest is going to come out. That energy that you're like bottling up, that you've maybe never met, like, it's going to explode, and you might end up having to burn down your whole life as you know it in order to let that child inside feel safe again. Because that child inside, that inner child, is going to get really sick and tired of just changing out masks all the time. One day it's either going to be like, what the hell, we keep going through this trunk of masks, and like, I'm so sick of taking one off and putting one on. That inner child is going to be like, I've been painting this picture and I've been waiting to show you, and you just keep ignoring me, so now I'm just going to throw paint everywhere. Like, eventually it's going to explode. And if you just do the work instead of waiting for everything to just explode inside you, it's going to be a lot easier, I promise. You need to deep dive down inside of your brain, inside of your heart, inside of your soul, and find out like, why are you a yes person? Why are you a no person? Because on the flip, you can be a total dick. You can come from abuse and be an absolute asshole because you're like, yeah, I'm going to control life now. It's like the bully thing. So I teach my kids a lot. Bullies 9 times out of 10 have a really shitty life at home. Like, their life at home sucks. That's why they bully other people, because it's the only way that they can like feel like they're somebody else, feel like they have control, feel like they're not inferior to everybody else in their life. If they have a shitty environment at home, they feel so small when they're there, right? And then when they go out in public and they realize that they can just bully and be total assholes to other people, they feel superior in that moment. And that's the shit that they love. And it's because it fills that void of like empowerment that they're not getting. So there's really like two types of personalities that you can have if you have a really shitty home. Being nice to others because people aren't nice to you, that's like the most healthy way to fill that void, but you still have to like get control of that so you're not just losing yourself as you get older and constantly making other people feel good when you get older and making other people feel seen when you get older because you're not seen. You have to let yourself be seen. You yourself have to see that inner child. Subconscious is up here. It controls your mind. Your inner self is here. Your subconscious and your inner self are connected. And in turn, they need to hold hands and control your mind. If you're not holding hands and you're totally disconnected, your mind is going to be firing on one piston. I don't know a lot about like actual machines at all. Like I'm not a mechanic, but if you have two pistons and you're firing on one, I don't think that's okay, is it? There's like a serious loss of power there. There has to be. So if you yourself are just a yes person and you yourself are constantly just pleasing other people because that's what you feel like you need to do, take a deep dive. If you know somebody that is a yes person and they're constantly just trying to please people, give them a break. Allow them to be seen. And if you know somebody that's a total freaking dick and you're like, wow, you're just so impository all the time, why is that? Stop and think, like, are they genetically an asshole? Because I do believe in that too. Like, I believe you can be genetically born an asshole. You can be genetically born a psychopath, 100%. I think all psychopaths are genetically born that way. But maybe there's just a huge void there that's missing. It's never too late to deep dive on ourselves. So I'm gonna stand by, it is very important that we know why we do what we do. It's very important that we deep dive on ourselves to discover what makes us think and act a certain way. Because that kind of intelligence cannot be taught. You have to self-examine. And the world would be a hell of a lot better place if people just fucking did that themselves on their own time, voluntarily. But anyway, I'll see you on the next one.